The Kethfer Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their insect-like ships moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts, eating up entire star systems and spitting out empty worlds. War Prime Velthar stood in the command, a center of his massive flagship, watching the holographic map that showed their conquered territory. 17 star systems belonged to them now. Soon it would be 18. His forearms moved across the control panels while his compound eyes studied the data streams. Each dot on the map represented a world that had fallen to their quantum disruption weapons. The Zephyrians had lasted 3 days. Crystal beings of Altara Prime had managed a week before their cities turned to glass. The ocean dwellers of Hydros had simply vanished beneath the waves when the Kethfer arrived. Status report. Velthor clicked through his mandibles, the sound echoing in the chamber. His tactical officer, a smaller Kethfer with scarred chitin, approached the display. The Outer Rim worlds show minimal resistance capability. War Prime. Most lack even basic shield technology. Weapons are projectile-based. Chemical combustion systems, primitive. Velthar's antennae twitched with amusement. After 3 millennia of conquest, they still found species that had barely crawled out of their home systems. It would be almost disappointing if not for the resources these worlds would provide. The holographic display zoomed in on a small blue-green world, orbiting a yellow star. The intelligence reports scrolled past in flowing Kethfer script. 3rd planet from its star, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Liquid water covering most of the surface, and inhabitants, a bipedal species that called themselves humans. Tell me about this one. Beltar gestured toward the blue world with one of his clawed hands. The tactical officer's eyes dimmed as he accessed the data files. Species designation: human. Population approximately 8 billion. They achieved interstellar flight only recently, perhaps 50 of their years ago. Their ships use crude fusion drives. No quantum manipulation technology detected. No gravitic shields. Their largest settlements could be pacified within hours. Velthar studied the rotating image of Earth. Cities glowed like scattered jewels across the continents. Orbital stations dotted the space around the planet like tiny moons. Ships moved between the planet and its natural satellite, carrying cargo and passengers. It looked so peaceful, so unaware of what was coming. Weapons capability, he asked. Nuclear fission and fusion devices, kinetic projectiles, electromagnetic pulse systems. Their space-based defenses consist of missile platforms and energy weapons powered by fusion reactors. Effective range is limited to their immediate orbital zone. The War Prime's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Nuclear weapons, the same technology the Kethfer had abandoned 2,000 years ago as too crude for warfare. These humans were using the galactic equivalent of sharpened sticks against plasma cannons. Any notable features? Unusual technology? Unexpected defensive capabilities? The tactical officer consulted his datapad. They appear to be remarkably diverse, multiple subspecies, hundreds of languages, thousands of separate political entities. Their military forces are divided among these various groups. No unified command structure, however. He paused, his antennae twitching uncertainly. However, they have an unusual trait. War Prime. They appear to adapt their technology rapidly. When faced with new challenges, our long-range sensors detected several new weapon systems being developed just in the time we've been observing them. And they study everything they've been attempting to analyze our probe transmissions. Velthar dismissed this with a wave of his upper right arm. Desperation. All species try to improve their weapons when they detect a superior force approaching. It makes no difference. The command chamber hummed with activity as junior officers prepared the final assault plans. Fleet positions were calculated, target priorities established, resource allocation determined. The Kethfer war machine operated with the precision of a living organism, each ship knowing its role in the coming battle. Estimated resistance duration? Velthar asked. Based on their current defensive capabilities and our standard assault protocols, complete subjugation should require no more than 6 hours. Possibly less if they surrender immediately upon seeing our force. Velthar nodded approvingly. 6 hours to add another world to the Dominion. The humans would join the countless other species that now served as workers, soldiers, and resources for the Kethver Empire. Their diversity might actually prove useful. Different subspecies could be assigned different roles based on their physical characteristics. Initiate the final phase, he commanded, his voice carrying across the chamber. Alert all fleet commanders. We moved to the Sol system within the hour. The massive ships began their preparation sequence. Quantum disruption cannons powered up, their energy signatures creating ripples in spacetime. Troop transport vessels loaded with Kethver warriors prepared for planetary assault. Supply ships checked their cargo holds, ready to strip the conquered world of useful resources. Within one cycle, Velthar announced to his fleet, "Every breathing creature in this galaxy will serve the Dominion." The hyperdrive engines engaged with a sound like reality tearing. The Kethver armada vanished from normal space, leaving only the faint shimmer of displaced atoms. They were confident in their inevitable victory. After all, no species had ever successfully resisted the Kethver war machine. The blue world called Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unaware that its greatest test was now racing toward it through the darkness between stars. Dr. Haeonwoo. Kim's hand shook as he watched the massive alien ships appear in the darkness above Earth. The deep space warning systems had been screaming for hours, but seeing the Kethver fleet with his own eyes was different. The ships were enormous, each one bigger than Earth's largest cities. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish swimming through the void. "How many?" asked the technician beside him. "Over 300 vessels, sir. Largest ones are, well, they're bigger than anything we've ever built." Kim nodded and turned back to his communication array. As Earth's head of xenolinguistics, he had spent years preparing for this moment. Every human child learned about the possibility of alien contact. But no one had expected it to come like this, with an invasion fleet that blocked out the stars. Captain Soman. Park's voice crackled through the CUM system from the bridge of the EU's Harmony, humanity's most advanced warship. "Dr. Kim, we're receiving what appears to be a transmission from the alien fleet. It's not friendly." "Put it through," Kim replied, his fingers dancing across the translation software he had developed. The message was simple and terrifying. The mechanical voice spoke in broken human languages, clearly using some kind of universal translator. "People of Earth, you will surrender immediately. Resistance will result in complete destruction. You have 1 hour to comply." Kim felt his stomach drop. This was exactly what they had feared, a species that had no interest in communication, only conquest. But Ambassador Lee Minho had a different idea. "Ambassador Lee, are you certain about this approach?" Captain Park asked from the bridge. Lee Minho stood in the communication center, looking surprisingly calm for someone facing the end of the world. He was a small man, with kind eyes and graying hair, but his voice carried absolute confidence. "They expect fear or immediate surrender. Let's give them something they've never encountered before. Sir, with respect, they have enough firepower to turn our planet into space dust," Park said. "Yes, but they haven't done it yet," Lee replied. "But that means they want something from us. And if they want something, we can negotiate." Kim watched as Lee began the strangest first contact protocol in human history. Instead of surrendering or begging for mercy, started transmitting mathematical sequences, prime numbers, the Fibonacci sequence, basic geometric proofs. The aliens had to be listening because they didn't fire. Next came music. Bach's Brandenburg, Concerto No. 3 flowed through space toward the alien fleet. The beautiful notes seemed tiny and fragile against the backdrop of massive warships, but they carried something that weapons could not, the essence of human creativity. Finally, Lee transmitted detailed star charts showing Earth's position in the galaxy, along with information about human civilization. Not military secrets, but art, literature, scientific discoveries, and philosophy. He was showing them who humans were not what they could do. The alien response came to hours later. The same mechanical voice, but this time it sounded ... confused. "Your transmission is not understood. You will surrender or be destroyed." Lee smiled and activated the communication array. We understand your position. We would like to arrange a meeting to discuss terms. Kim nearly choked on his coffee. Bastard. They just threatened to destroy us. Yes, but they're still talking, Lee replied. That's progress. 6 hours later, Kim found himself on a small space station that humanity had hastily constructed in the space between Earth and the alien fleet. The station was barely more than a metal tube with life support, but it was neutral ground. War Prime Velthar entered the station with 2 guards. Kim had studied the alien images from their transmissions, but seeing a Kethver in person was overwhelming. The creature was nearly 7 feet tall, covered in dark chitin that gleamed under the station's lights. 4 arms ended in clawed hands, and compound eyes reflected the room like black jewels. I am War Prime Velthor of the Kethver Dominion, the alien said through its translator. You are the human representative. I am Ambassador Lee Minho of Earth, Lee replied with a slight bow. Thank you for agreeing to meet. What followed was the most bizarre diplomatic meeting in human history. Instead of pleading for Earth's survival, Lee asked questions. He wanted to know about Kethver biology, their technology, their culture. He asked about their quantum weapons with the same curiosity he might show when discussing a new recipe. Your quantum disruption technology is fascinating, Lee said, making notes on his tablet. How do you prevent cascade failures in the containment matrix? The rest translator struggled with the question. His species had conquered hundreds of worlds, but no one had ever asked about the technical details of their weapons before. You want to understand our technology, of course? It's clearly superior to ours. We could learn a great deal from you. You are not afraid? Lee considered this carefully. We're terrified, naturally, but fear doesn't help us understand. Understanding is what we do best. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been confusion. Your species is ... unusual. When we arrive, most species either attack immediately or surrender. You do neither. We find your people fascinating as well, Lee replied, though I suspect we'll have to continue this conversation under different circumstances. Velthor studied the human ambassador for a long moment. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this strange little creature who faced annihilation with curiosity. Instead of terror, the first Kethvar quantum disruption beam lit up the morning sky above Earth like a second sun. War Prime Velthor expected to see human ships dissolving into atoms, their primitive hulls no match for weapons that could tear apart the fabric of space itself. Instead, the human vessel rolled sideways at the last second, the deadly energy passing harmlessly through empty space. Impossible, muttered his tactical officer. Our targeting computers had a perfect lock. Velthor's compound eyes tracked the human ship as it spun through what should have been a fatal maneuver. The vessel looked like it had been built in a scrapyard, welded plates of different metals, mismatched engines, and weapon systems that belonged on mining equipment. Yet it moved like a living creature, twisting and dancing through the Kethver formation. Commander. Ji-Hoon Choi felt his stomach slam against his spine as his fighter pulled 15 gravities in a turn that should have killed him. The reinforced pilot chair and drug cocktail flowing through his veins kept him conscious, but barely. His ship groaned and sparked around him, hull plates straining against forces they were never designed to handle. Blue Squadron, remember what we learned? In the simulations, he gasped into his cum. They think in patterns. Our computers predict where we should go based on physics and logic. So don't be logical. His wingman, Lieutenant Young-Soo Park, laughed as he sent his fighter into a spiraling dive that defied every rule of space. Combat, copy that, Commander. Being stupid and staying alive? The human fighters had been cobbled together from whatever Earth's industries could produce in the months since detecting the Kethver approach. Mining lasers became weapons, cargo. Haulers became bombers. Construction mechs became assault craft. Nothing matched, nothing was standardized, and nothing should have worked. But it did work, in ways that made the Kethver tactical computers smoke and overheat. Sir, their flight patterns make no sense, reported a Kethver sensor operator. There. Pulling maneuvers that should tear their ships apart? Our prediction algorithms can't track them. Velthar watched as a human vessel that looked like a flying pile of junk somehow slipped between two of his destroyers and fired what appeared to be a modified industrial plasma cutter directly into a shield generator. The weapon should have bounced harmlessly off the Kethver armor, but the humans had somehow tuned it to exactly the right frequency. "How did they know our shield harmonics?" he demanded. His science officer's antennae twitched nervously. "Unknown, Warprime. But they're not just attacking randomly. They single quotes. Learning." Across the battlefield, Engineer Sujin Han worked frantically in the mobile repair bay of the human command ship. Her workspace looked like a madman's laboratory alien technology, mixed with human tools, holographic displays showing Kethver weapon designs, prototype devices that sparked and hummed with barely contained energy. "Got another one," called out her assistant, dragging a chunk of Kethver hull plating through the airlock. "This piece has part of their targeting system still attached." Han's eyes lit up as she connected the alien components to her analysis equipment. "Beautiful. Look at this quantum resonance pattern. They're using a completely different approach to energy focusing than we are." Around her, dozens of human engineers worked to reverse engineer every piece of Kethver technology they could get. They're hands-on. Some came from lucky hits on enemy ships. Others came from the wreckage of human vessels, pilots who had deliberately rammed Kethver ships, sacrificing themselves to bring back samples for analysis. "The power coupling here is at least 50% more efficient than our best designs," Han muttered, her fingers flying over the control interfaces. "But if we modify the resonance frequency and add a feedback loop..." 20 minutes later, her voice crackled over the fleet communication system. "All units, we've cracked their shield frequency. New weapon modifications uploading now." Beltor felt something he had never experienced in 3,000 years of conquest. Genuine alarm. His ships were designed to fight predictable enemies, who used logical tactics and standard technology, but these humans seemed to ignore every rule of space combat he had ever learned. "Sir, they're actively targeting our damaged vessels," reported his tactical officer. "They salvaging our technology mid-battle." "What do you mean salvaging? They're using their smaller ships to strip components from our disabled vessels? Look at this." The tactical display showed a human ship that looked like a flying crane grabbing pieces of a Kethver cruiser and pulling them back to mobile workshops. Even as the battle raged around them, human engineers were taking apart alien technology and rebuilding it. "They've been preparing for this," Veltar realized, his mandibles clicking with growing concern. "They knew we were coming." The truth was even more unsettling. For months, ever since detecting the Kethver approach, humanity had been preparing for this exact scenario. They had studied every piece of information they could gather about the alien fleet. They had run countless simulations. They had built ships specifically designed to be unpredictable. Most importantly, they had embraced the one advantage they had: the ability to adapt and learn faster than any species the Kethver had ever encountered. "New contacts," called out a human sensor operator. "Enemy reinforcements jumping in from hyperspace." Commander Choi wiped blood from his nose and grinned. "Good, more technology for us to borrow." The battle had been raging for 18 hours, and Warprime Velthar could feel his certainty cracking like old chitin. His fleet had destroyed countless human ships, but for every vessel that fell, 2 more seemed to take its place. Worse, the humans were fighting differently now than they had at the start of the battle. "Status report," he demanded, his 4 arms working frantically at the command console. His second-in-command, scarred veteran named Crystal, approached with his antennae drooping in confusion. "Warprime, they're using our own coordination against us. Somehow they've learned to jam our hivemind communications. When we try to coordinate fleet movements, they're causing cascade failures in our network." Velthar's compound eyes widened. The hivemind communication system was the foundation of Kethver military superiority. It allowed thousands of ships to move as one organism, each vessel knowing exactly what the others were doing. No enemy had ever found a way to disrupt it. "How is this possible?" "They captured one of our communication nodes 12 hours ago," Crystal explained. Within 6 hours, they had figured out how to turn our own signals against us. Now when we try to send coordinated commands, they inject false signals that confuse our ships. On the human side of the battlefield, engineer Sujin Han was working miracles with alien technology. Her repair bay had become a factory of impossible weapons, each one built from a mixture of human creativity and Kethver engineering. Sparks flew from her welding torch as she attached a captured alien power core to a human missile launcher. "This should give us about 3 times the explosive power," she muttered to her assistant. "Plus, it'll punch right through their shields since it's using their own energy signature." Around her, the mobile repair platform hummed with activity. Human engineers were taking apart Kethver technology faster than the aliens could produce it. Every captured component became a blueprint for new weapons, better armor, or more efficient engines. "Han, we need more of those shield disruptors," called Captain Soman Park from the bridge. "The enemy is adapting to our current weapons. We're already working on it, Captain. Give me 20 minutes and I'll have something that will make their shields useless." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, pilot Dong-Hein Lee was making what he knew would be his final flight. His fighter's hull had been breached in 3 places. Life support was failing, and his weapons were offline. Any sane pilot would have retreated to the repair ships. But Lee wasn't feeling particularly sane. Through his cracked helmet visor, he could see the Kethver flagship, a massive vessel that bristled with weapons and armor. Its primary weapons array was charging for another devastating attack on the human fleet. "Control, this is Lee. My ship is finished, but I'm still flying," he reported calmly. "Lee, return to base for repairs," came the reply. "Negative, Control. I see a better target." He pushed his dying fighter to maximum acceleration, aiming directly at the alien flagships. Weapons array. The Kethver point defense systems opened fire, but his ship was too small and too fast. Plasma bolts seared past his cockpit as he screamed through the enemy formation. "For Earth," shouted, as his fighter slammed into the alien weapon at nearly a quarter the speed of light. The explosion lit up the battlefield like a miniature star. The Kethver flagship's primary weapons array simply ceased to exist, taking a significant portion of the ship's forward section with it. Velther felt his flagship shudder under the impact. "Damage report, primary weapons offline. Forward shields down to 30%. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, his damage control officer reported. "One small fighter did this? Yes, War Prime. But it's not the first. They've been using their destroyed ships as weapons. Our tactical computers can't predict this behavior." The Kethver had built their entire military strategy around the assumption that other species would behave rationally. Their AI systems could predict enemy movements, anticipate battle tactics, and counter logical responses. But the humans seemed to have thrown logic out the airlock. "Sir, another wave of human fighters approaching," reported the sensor operator. They're all badly damaged. They're not retreating." Velthar watched in growing horror. His 12 human fighters, all of them trailing atmosphere and sparking with system failures, formed up for attack runs on his remaining ships. Each pilot was essentially committing suicide, but they were doing it with such precision that they were taking out critical systems with every impact. They're not just dying, he realized. They're choosing exactly how to die to hurt us the most. On the human flagship, Captain Soman Park stood on her bridge, now armed with weapons that combined Kethver efficiency with human innovation. Her ship had been rebuilt 3 times during the battle, each time stronger and more dangerous than before. "All ships, prepare for final assault pattern," she announced over the fleet communication system. "Show them what happens when you threaten our home." The remaining human vessels formed up in a formation that no military academy in the galaxy would have recognized. Ships of different sizes and capabilities moved together like a swarm of angry bees. Each one armed with weapons that shouldn't have existed and powered by technology that had been invented in the middle of battle. The tide of battle turned not through superior firepower, but through humanity's most dangerous trait, their ability to make the impossible seem inevitable. They had faced annihilation and turned it into opportunity. They had met superior technology and made it their own. The HFY fleet, undefeated for 3,000 years, began to retreat. War Prime Velthore's compound eyes flickered as he tried to focus through the smoke and sparks filling his command chamber. The flagship's hull had been breached in 6 places, and the emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the twisted metal. His second-in-command lay motionless nearby, dark fluid pooling beneath his shattered chitin. For the first time in 3,000 years of conquest, a HFY fleet faced total defeat. "Damage report," Velthor whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of failing systems. "All primary systems offline," came the weak reply from his surviving communications officer. "Life support failing on decks 1 through 4. Engines destroyed. Weapons arrays gone." Through the gaping hole in his ship's hull, Velthar could see the human vessels surrounding what remained of his once mighty fleet. Their ships still looked like flying scrap heaps, but now they moved with the confidence of victors. Behind them, the blue-green world of Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unmarked by the battle that had raged in its space. Double quotes. "Sir, the humans are transmitting," the communications officer reported. They're offering medical assistance." Velthar's mandibles clicked in confusion. In 3 millennia of warfare, no species had ever offered to help wounded HFY. The defeated were destroyed or enslaved. That was the natural order of things. "Put them through," he managed. Dr. Manesio Yoon's face appeared on the emergency communication screen. She was younger than the ambassador who had negotiated with him days ago, but her eyes held the same unsettling combination of intelligence and compassion that seemed to define her species. "War Prime Velthor, this is Dr. Yoon, acting commander of the human fleet. We're prepared to offer medical assistance and discuss terms for ceasefire." Velthar stared at the human woman, his translator struggling to process her words. "You... defeated us. Why do you not destroy us?" "Because you're not our enemy," she replied simply. "You're a species we don't understand yet. That makes you valuable." The War Prime's thoughts felt sluggish, whether from injury or shock, he couldn't tell. "We came to conquer your world, to enslave your people. We have destroyed countless civilizations." "Yes," Dr. Yoon nodded. "We want to understand why. We want to learn about your culture, your history, your motivations." "Destroying you would teach us nothing." Within hours, something unprecedented in galactic history began to unfold. Human medical ships docked with damaged HFY vessels. Human doctors, working alongside HFY medics, treated wounded soldiers from both sides. The same engineers who had been tearing apart alien technology to build weapons now used that knowledge to repair life support systems and heal the injured. Engineer Sujin Han found herself in the medical bay of a HFY cruiser, her hands covered in alien blood as she worked to repair a wounded soldier's breathing apparatus. The HFY medic, beside her, clicked instructions in his native language, which her translator converted into rapid Korean. "The respiratory system is similar to our own," she murmured, making careful adjustments to the alien device. "Oh, but the pressure requirements are different. Try increasing the flow rate by 15%. The HFY medic followed her suggestion, and the wounded soldier's breathing stabilized. "Your knowledge of our biology is impressive," he said through his translator. "We've been studying your people since you arrived," Han replied.
"But we
"Wanted to understand you? To find weaknesses? To find similarities?" In the ruins of his flagship, Velthor was visited by Dr. Yoon herself. The human woman moved carefully through the twisted corridors, her medical scanner in one hand and a translation device in the other. She knelt beside his command chair, where he had refused to be moved. "Your injuries are serious but not fatal," she said, running her scanner over his damaged chitin. "We can treat them if you'll allow it." "Why?" Velthor asked. "I would have shown no mercy to your people." "Maybe that's exactly why we need to show mercy to you," she replied. "Someone has to break the cycle." As the days passed, something remarkable happened. HFY soldiers who had expected to die in battle found themselves in human hospitals, being treated by doctors who asked endless questions about their culture, their biology, their history. Human engineers worked alongside Kethper technicians to repair damaged ships, sharing knowledge that had been gained through centuries of development. Most surprising of all, the humans began to understand the Kethver's motivations. The insectoid species had begun their conquest not from cruelty, but from a desperate need for resources. Their home system was dying, and they had been searching for new worlds to sustain their population. Conquest had become their only means of survival. We could have helped you, Dr. Yoon told Velthar during one of their conversations. If he had simply asked, "We do not ask," Velthar replied. "We take. It is our way." "It was your way," she corrected. "But it doesn't have to be anymore." Velthar finally understood what made humanity truly dangerous. They didn't just fight to win, they fought to learn, to grow, to turn even their enemies into opportunities for something greater. They had faced annihilation and turned it into the beginning of something unprecedented in galactic history. The Kethver had come to Earth expecting to add another conquered world to their empire. Instead, they had discovered something far more valuable: the possibility of genuine understanding between species. They had lost their first battle in 3,000 years, but in losing, they had gained something they had never known they were missing. For the first time in his long life, Velthar began to wonder what peace might look like.